What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. I have the first Tom Ford review of the year for you all. I'm going to be giving you all of my thoughts on the new Tom Ford Electric Cherry Eyeshadow Quad in the wet dry formula. I have swatches for you guys. I have a demo. I have a couple of comparisons, and I'm going to give you all my thoughts on whether or not this is good. So if you want to hear what I think, then keep watching. And if you are new here, then welcome. My name is Sophia, and this is my channel that focuses on all things beauty and luxury. Every single week I upload new content on new beauty releases like this. We love Tom Ford on this channel. We also love Chanel, Dior, Sephora brands, Pat McGrath, Natasha Denona. So if you love makeup and you want to have fun here with us, then you're in the right place, my friend. Hit that subscribe button to join our fam, and you can also click the notification bell to hear about every time I upload a new video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, friends, and also, as always, I will be linking everything that I mentioned in this video, anything that is on my face today, in the description box down below. You guys know most of my links are affiliate links, so when you shop through the links, it helps to support my channel. And now, without further ado, let's get into this review. All right, party people, let's talk a little bit more about this palette. Before we get into the swatches, I do want to give you a little bit of background about this collection. I feel like Tom Ford did this last year as well. Their brand launched so many different products at the beginning of the year. It can be a little difficult to sort of navigate between the collections. But what he has done recently is kind of building off of the Lost Cherry collection that he's done in years past. He has released two new fragrances. We have Electric Cherry and also Cherry Smoke. And then to complement each of those fragrance launches, he's also launched an eyeshadow palette and a matching lipstick. So we've got the Electric Cherry palette, which I'm reviewing for you today. And then there's also a Cherry Smoke palette that is in a different formula. I didn't pick that one up. I decided to pick this one up because I felt like it was a little bit more vibrant, a little bit different. Also, it is in the wet dry formula. If you guys are not familiar with the wet dry formula, it's kind of like that beloved OG Tom Ford, very blendable, very airbrushed, soft, but not too soft type of formula that he does. If you're familiar with Nude Dip or Suspicion or Honeymoon or Body Heat, all of those palettes are in the wet dry formula. To be honest with you, I like a lot of Tom Ford formulas that he's launched lately, but I think the wet dry formula really is still my favorite. So that's why I decided to pick this one up. I didn't pick up the lipstick that was a part of this launch because it was in kind of a glossy red formula, but I'll link that down below in case you guys are interested in it. In terms of pricing and availability, the only place that I'm seeing this right now is at Selfridges, which, if you are not familiar with that company, they are a UK department store and they sell a lot of high-end makeup. If you live in the US or other countries, you can shop from Selfridges, but you might have to pay, a $30 shipping fee. This is retailing for $78 on Selfridges. So it is cheaper than what we are going to end up getting here in the US. I have no doubt this will be about $90 once it drops in the US. So if you guys are not able to find this, if it's out of stock, if you don't want to shop from Selfridges, I would just wait, watch this review, decide if you want the palette, because I feel like this is probably going to launch pretty soon at US retailers and retailers in other countries. I don't have any more information about that. I do not know if this is going to be coming to Sephora. I don't know if it's going to be coming specifically to Nordstrom, specifically to Saks or Bloomingdale's. But what I do know is that last year, the same thing happened. These palettes, these limited edition special collections, they kind of launched at Selfridges first. And then over the course of a couple weeks, they started popping up at other retailers. So the only thing I have to say there, friends, is subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram. It's just at sophia.sees.beauty. I'll link that down below because that's where I let you guys know when these things pop up. We've already seen some of the other palettes he's recently released pop up at Bloomingdale's and other types of retailers. So subscribe and follow me if you want to hear more about that. But enough about that. That's just a little bit of background about the price and the collection. I want to show you guys some close-ups of this beautiful palette. You guys are going to see the packaging. It's pretty much the same Tom Ford packaging that we always get, except it's in this beautiful red color, and red is my favorite color. So I'm kind of all about this packaging. I don't think that Tom Ford, it's the most luxurious packaging in the world. I think it probably is comparable to Dior and Chanel, but it's not going to be as good as a Westman Atelier, a Victoria Beckham Beauty, anything like that. But you know what? I'm here for the limited edition cherry packaging. In terms of packaging, I do also want to mention that it comes with that signature little pouch that most Tom Ford palettes come with. It does say that it is made in Italy, but it does not say on the component or on the box that it came in what the shelf life is. So unfortunately, friends, I do not know, but I would expect it is the same as all of the other Tom Ford wet dry formula palettes. Taking a look at the palette itself, you guys are going to see it's very much kind of a vibrant, or vibrant at least for Tom Ford, a vibrant like cherry, red, and pink type of color story. Let me show you guys the swatches. You're gonna notice you kind of get that sheen, that airbrush, not quite metallic, but kind of like a soft shimmery finish from that wet dry formula. I want to show you also here just the first 2 shades swatched on my hand. You'll notice half of the palette isn't super red. You do get one shimmery neutral color and also a soft pink, and then the rest of the palette is quite red. We have a brighter red, and then we also have a darker, almost like a black cherry type of red. So those are the swatches for you guys. What I'm going to do next is just get into the demo and show you guys how I got this look today, so you can get a sense of just how each of the colors apply, how they apply with different brushes, and how you can kind of get this very wearable look using what is basically a red palette. All right, friends, let's get into this demo using Tom Ford Electric Cherry. I did this look yesterday and I was very pleased with it, so I want to recreate it for you today. If my eyes seem a little bit watery, apologies. It is so dry in Boston right now. It's like the dead of winter and I'm always sitting by a heater and my eyes are just super watery. So apologies if they look a little bit like that. I'm gonna start off with the mid-tone kind of pinky shade, and I like to sort of use this as a base in the crease. And you can see it's like fairly pigmented. I went in with this, what is this? The Sonia G Jumbo Blender, and it deposits a lot of pigment, but don't worry, we are going to blend this out. I also just want to show you what it would look like if you went in with a different brush. So here I'm going in with a Wayne Goss number 16. See the difference based on what type of brush you use? Like yesterday I used a softer crease brush like this, but if you go in with a denser brush like that one from Sonia G, then you're going to get a much lighter application. So I'm just going to even them out now, but I kind of wanted to do that just for demonstration, especially if either you want to go a little bit bolder, or maybe you have, you know, like a deeper skin tone or something like that, and you're just trying to pick up the pigment a little bit. I think that with the wet dry formula, this sometimes it can be a little bit harder to pick up than like the creme formula. For example, when I first started using these quads, that was the problem that I had. I just felt like my brush wasn't really like picking it up. So I wanted to kind of show that for you guys as a little tip, depending on what you're looking for. So you can see this mid-tone pink, it kind of pulls as like a cherry pink on the eyes, but we're going to kind of neutralize that a little bit by using this color. This is the most neutral color that's in the palette. It's also a little bit more shimmery than the other colors that are in the palette, and that makes it really good for applying to the center of the lid. This is what's going to give you a little bit of pop, and we're also going to pop that on the lower lash line and in the inner corner. You can kind of see that shimmer. It's a really pretty soft shimmer. It's not glittery at all, but it is more shimmery than these, because these are a little more, they're better suited for kind of like the crease and creating depth. Popping that in the inner corner, as I mentioned, and the lower lash line. I do very much recommend using this neutral color on the lower lash line, especially if you're kind of worried about applying reds to the eyes, because it is the most neutral color. Sometimes when you go in with reds on the lower lash line, it kind of makes it look like maybe your eyes are sore, but I was really happy with the way that this one looks on the under eyes, and it kind of brightens everything up. Now I'm gonna go in with the brighter red shade on the outer corner, and I think the key here is to use a fluffy brush, because you don't want it, at least I don't want it to be too pigmented. And what's really nice about the wet dry formula, and why I think they did the wet dry formula, and why I think they did this more poppy color story in the wet dry formula, is because it's so blendable. Like, it doesn't translate as pure red onto the eyes. It's really gonna melt in with the other colors. So I'm going in very, very lightly and just blending that kind of like into the crease. I think if they had done this in any of the other formulas, it would have been like way too much, in my opinion, for like a red eyeshadow palette. So I was really happy to see this in the wet dry formula. And lastly, I'm going to be going into this deeper, more, I guess, slightly purpley ruby shade with a pencil brush here, and I'm just adding like a little bit more depth, and I will blend that in just a second. You can also use this one if you're maybe a little bit afraid of the brighter red, because this one is more subdued. I think I'm gonna go in again with the more neutral shade on my finger and just put a little bit more in the center, because like I really want that to shine and you can get a little more impact that way. I'm also gonna take that shade a little bit more up here because I just want like a burst of brightness from the center of the lid. This is kind of something I've been doing a lot lately. I'm taking my little hourglass powder here and I'm gonna blend around the edges, and this is just gonna help diffuse everything because I don't want this like harsh line of red. This is a pretty key step for me, especially since I'm pale. Like a lot of palettes, doesn't matter what the color is, if it's a brighter tone, I don't want it to look too harsh up against my very pale skin. So I'm just blending this out. I'm gonna go put on some mascara, maybe a little bit of a lip, and I'll be right back to show you guys the final look. All right, friends, so this is the final look with mascara. I think that this pulls a little bit more of like a cherry pink, if you ask me. Comment down below and let me know what you think. This doesn't scream like super vibrant like red eyeshadow. I think just like any other Tom Ford wet dry palette that I have, once I kind of finish the look, everything is sort of seamlessly blended into one another. All the colors kind of meld together, which I really like. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of eyeliner on and come back just so that you guys can see how you can kind of make this even more of like a neutral look with a neutral eyeliner. So let me go give that a try and I'm going to be right back. I am back and here's what it looks like with a little bit of eyeliner on. I just put the Chantecaille eye brightening pencil on the lower lash line, and then I did one of the Chanel Yo waterproof eyeliners in the shade Bois Noir. I'll link all of this down below. I just got this shade. It's kind of like a sooty brown, almost like not quite brown, not quite black, and I love kind of like the extra dimension that it gave this look. Comment down below and you guys let me know what you think, but I'll just get up super close so you can see some of that shimmer. You can see all of the shades kind of melded together. I hope that you guys enjoyed that demo. Now what I want to do is just two quick comparisons for you all. I want to compare this palette, Electric Cherry, with the two new palettes that were launched as a part of the Chanel Spring collection. I have a full review of both of the palettes that are a part of that collection, by the way, and kind of talk a little bit more about where you can get the palettes. So I'm going to link that video down below. I don't really have many palettes in my collection that are like this, but I do think that a lot of you are going to be curious about how each of these compare, because we do have, you know, there's some similar tones between these a little bit. So first off, I want to compare it up against the lighter palette in the Chanel Spring collection. This one is called Tendresse. So I'll show you guys a side-by-side of these two palettes. I really think that Tendresse, it is just a lighter, peachier type of palette. Like when you look at Tendresse, there really are no reds in here. There is just one sort of, I guess you could call it a berry shade almost. When you look at the swatches side by side as well, you'll clearly see also that the formula is very different. The wet dry formula has a lot more of a sheen, whereas the Chanel formula is a lot more subtle. But I just wanted to show you that to you guys because, you know, like the two nudie shades, they're a little bit similar, and the two kind of more plummy shades, or black cherry shades rather, they're also a little bit similar, but I think that these are different enough that you could have both of them. Next, I have the darker palette from the Chanel Spring collection. This is called Charactere. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that okay. And looking at these side by side, there's a little bit more similarities between these palettes, but they're not exactly the same. I'll show you guys the side by side swatches. With the Chanel palette, obviously, once again, it is a different formula. I also think that in the Tom Ford quad, The colors they don't have as much differentiation between them, and you get a little bit more of like pink and nude, whereas in the Chanel palette, you've got that bright gold. That's what really stands out to me. And then you also don't really have as much of a nude. It's a little bit more of, I guess, a rose tone shade. So I think that there's definitely some similarities here. I think that if you are debating between each of these, if you want something that is more multi-purpose that you can put on the cheeks and also on the eyes, that's really what the Chanel one is intended for. But if you want something that is going to be just an eyeshadow palette, I think that the reds that are in this Electric Cherry palette from Tom Ford, they're a little bit easier and more wearable to work with, specifically on the eyes. When I look at the Chanel palette, I did a demo with you guys and I did put the red on my eyes here, but for me, that bright red, it's more of a blush shade for me. The rest of these, they don't really pull that red on the eyes. So I think if I had to choose between these, if it was just for eyeshadow purposes, I would go with the Electric Cherry. If you have like a deeper skin tone and you want to be able to kind of dive into these deeper shades for blushes, then I would go with the Chanel. All right, friends, I hope that those comparisons were helpful. If you guys have any other comparison requests, just comment down below and let me know what you think would be a good comparison if I have those palettes. What I think I might do is do like a YouTube Shorts kind of running through a lot of those comparisons to kind of have as like an add-on to this video. So comment down below if you guys can think of anything that is similar to Electric Cherry. Now it is time for my final thoughts. What do I think of this palette? First off, in terms of the formula, I think it's really good. I think it's just like any of the other wet dry formulas that I like. I don't think I have a single, I think some of the Soleil Neige palettes from a couple years ago, not all of them were the best, but when I think of the ones that I really like the Daydream palette or the Honeymoon palette or New Dip or Suspicion, etc. I think that this is just as pigmented, just as blendable as all of those. I think it's easy to work with. Like you guys saw, it kind of just blended out super duper easily. That being said, if you're looking for something that's going to be more matte, more pigmented, I don't think that this palette or this formula is necessarily for you. Now, in terms of the color story, personally, I like this. I actually was pretty surprised. When I opened it up, I wasn't sure how wearable this was going to be. But throughout the day yesterday, I kept taking a look at the makeup that I created, basically the same look that I created today. And I was like, you know what? I really do like this look. I feel like it's soft. It doesn't scream red. It doesn't scream pink. It screams cherry to me. That being said, if you're somebody that you just don't gravitate towards reds, I totally see how this palette isn't gonna be for you. I don't have anything like this in my collection, so for me, this is kind of like a fun addition, but I don't think that this palette is gonna be for everybody. I don't think it's gonna suit everybody's coloring. Just taking a look at the comments from the reviews that I did on those Chanel palettes, a lot of you were not really feeling those color stories, so I feel like a lot of you are going to feel the same about this palette. This is for the person that wants a little bit more color. I also think that this palette would look really good on people who have like a tanner and deeper skin tone, because I think that these tones are going to melt really well into that type of coloring, so I'll mention that as well. If you're looking at the other releases that Tom Ford has come out with recently, the other palette, Cherry Smoke, I'll put an image up here so you guys can see what I mean. That palette looks a lot softer. It looks a lot more maybe closer to Charlotte Tilbury, kind of like Pillow Talk, Walk of No Shame, maybe like Pillow Talk medium, a little less vibrant than this. And so I know a lot of you guys who weren't really into this, you were kind of leaning more towards that. Tom Ford also has released a palette called Forbidden Pink that I'm going to be reviewing for you guys very shortly. And that one is super duper neutral and it's in the creme formula. So that's going to be a very different palette. I will share my thoughts on that shortly. But in summary, I think that this is a solid palette. The packaging is great. I think the formula is great. It just depends on whether or not you see yourself using all of these shades. If you're not going to use all 4 shades, don't get it, because it is a $90 palette. $90. That's very expensive. Or $78 if you are buying it from Selfridges, but even $78, that's way too expensive to only maybe be using 1 or 2 of the shades. So if you think you're gonna use all these, if you like this look, then I think it's worth it. But if not, I think it needs to be a pass because $90 is just way too much. And I'm sure there's some other brands out there that are doing similar color stories. All right, friends, that's all I have to say about the palette today. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, and please sound off in the comments down below and let me know what you thought of this color story. Do you like the way that this looks on the eyes? Did you pick this up? If you picked it up, I definitely want to know what you think because I know a lot of you guys ordered this. This palette is kind of going in and out of stock on Selfridges. So if you guys want it and you're having trouble finding it, once again, subscribe to my channel here and follow me on Instagram because I'm always posting the community board and my Instagram stories whenever I see these things become available again. Once again, I will have everything linked in that description box down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And with that, friends, I hope that you are having a fantastic day and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye.